Oh, here we go. Okay. I think we're in business now. I apologize about my Rocky-esque eye. Woke up with a big sty this morning. It looks like someone clocked me in the eye. I did not get clocked in the eye. I just woke up with a giant sty in my eye. Adrian! I feel like Rocky. Okay, let's jam. We are now, this is a very exciting evening. We are beginning the new cycle of the Devar Malchus Sichas. Devar Malchus, literally words of the king. Just a brief introduction for those who are joining us for the first time. These collective sichas, here's a picture of the Rebbe holding a booklet called Devar Malchus. These particular sichas were given by the Rebbe in 1991 and 1992, collectively known as the Nun Aleph Nun Beis Sichas, corresponding to the Hebrew years of 51 and 5751 and 5752. When the Rebbe started giving these sichas, they were printed for him in a booklet titled Devar Malchus, or literally the words of the king. And these are the most recent talks we have from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And in fact, it is in these talks that the Rebbe told us that the direct path to bringing Moshiach is learning about Moshiach, especially from the teachings of the leader of the generation, being the Rebbe. And this is it. So we are, Baruch Hashem, starting a new cycle. We learn every Tuesday night, 8:30 to 11, which is now going to be broadcast live, not only on Facebook, but on YouTube as well, for those who do not do Facebook. And this is the beginning of the Sichas of Tafshin Nun Beis, or 1992, the most recent talks of the Rebbe. And we are now in Bereshis, and we're starting a whole new cycle, so it's exciting. So, l'chaim. And we know our sages and our Rebbeim teach us that we need to live with the times. We have to live with the parsha of the week. So let's see what the Rebbe has in store for us, and what and how we can apply this to our individual lives and our service of Hashem. Okay, Aleph. We do a Pascha Merabosenu Nasiyenu Shishabes Bereshis Noga'as L'Kol Hashana Kulo. As is known and has been repeated many times by our Rebbes and our Nasis, our leaders of our generations, that the Shabbat Bereshis is connected to the entire year. Azai vai misha'alat zech uvach Shabbat Bereshis. Azai git be'arach. This is in Yiddish. I'm not going to try to explain in Yiddish, but the Hebrew explanation is here. But Haggadah Shabbos Bereshis Namshachas b'Kol Hashanah. The way we conduct ourselves on the first Shabbos of the year, which is this week, the way we conduct ourselves on the first Shabbos of the year, which is this upcoming Shabbos, is basically how we draw down our energy for the entire year. So it's a very, very important week, and it's a very important Shabbos. So the Rebbe says like this: how is it that specifically on Shabbos Bereshis, how we express ourselves, that this is connected, this is indicative of how we draw down our divine energies, so to speak, for the entire year. Seemingly, this seems to apply to the entire month of Tishrei. Tishrei, Oisiyes Reshis. We know that Tishrei, which is the Hebrew month that we are in, and that we're reaching the end of. As we know, Shabbos Bereshis is the last Shabbos of the month that blesses the upcoming month. So Tishrei is the same Hebrew letters for Reshit, which means the beginning. Hareshis shall call Hashanah Kula, because it's the beginning of the entire year, or the first month of the year. Kiyadua Shemodim shall Chodesh Tishrei. Hinam Moedim Kloli shemehem dimshak al kol hashana. Like it is known that when we stand in the month of Tishrei, literally this is including and drawing down for the entire year. In other words, the whole month of Tishrei, not just Shabbos Bereshis. Rosh Hashanah, because what is the first holiday, of course, of Tishrei, is Rosh Hashanah, right? Rosh Hashanah literally means, why is it called Rosh Hashanah? Kihu Rosh HaKlal B'Teichel Minhag as Kol HaYemei Hashanah. Because Rosh literally means the head, and Hashanah of the year. So Rosh Hashanah is literally inclusive of and guides our entire year. As we know that on Rosh Hashanah, God literally, each one of us stands in judgment in front of the heavenly court, in front of the heavenly throne. And it is determined our entire upcoming year. And according to this, furthermore, is things get sealed, we know, is on Yom Kippur. And then furthermore, so in other words, Rosh Hashanah, it is signed, as we know. Yom Kippur, it is sealed. And then on Sukkot, we have the opportunity to draw down even more blessings through our simcha, through our joy. Up until Shemini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, which is the culmination of Sukkot and the end, and actually a holiday in and of itself. Medua in Kain, Metzienu. Sorry, it's hard for me to see, my eyes like super blurry, but I'm managing. Kain Metzienu. B'miuchad, Hashanah's Shabbos Bereshis B'kach Shenoga the fall as Kol Hashanah. So how are we saying specifically in Shabbos Bereshis that determines how we act on Shabbos Bereshis, our conduct on Shabbos Bereshis, that determines our entire upcoming year? When we know it's literally, the Rebbe just brings proof how it's the entire month of Tishrei. Right? We've got Rosh Hashanah. It's known that Rosh Hashanah is signed and Yom Kippur it's sealed, but the final seal comes on Hoshana Rabbah, which is based on our simcha for the entire week of Sukkot. And then, of course, we can sweeten that even more from the dancing and joy in Simchas Torah. So what is it specifically about Shabbos Bereshis that determines our entire year more than the rest of the whole entire month of Tishrei, which literally stands for Reshis, or beginning of the year? So first of all, one point that we can understand is, Bapashtus, and a simple way. Shabbos Bereshis Metzienu as Mumad Mechodesh Tishrei. Hamedubar b'moados the Seder Haregel Shachai Hayoyim Yoyim Bashar Chodesh Chadshei Shana. One second. So, okay. So first, just to explain, Shabbos Bereshis, we find ourselves in a situation where we're literally coming to the conclusion or the end of the month of Tishrei, which is literally the month that is most jam-packed with holidays, that is filled with holidays. And we're entering into the ordinary life and the ordinary day-to-day drudgery, if you will, throughout the rest of the months of the year. Shabbos Bereshis, Echad. It is the completion and the end of the entire month of Tishrei. And it is the final Shabbos of the month of Tishrei. Shmini Atzeres v'Simchas Torah. Shegam Otzrim, called team. Kanisim, the Penimios as Kol HaYamim, HaTayvim, Shal Chodesh Tishrei. So, on Shabbos Bereshis, we mentioned it's the final Shabbos of the month. And what is happening is it's completing all the days of the month of Tishrei that preceded it, including Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. And it's literally taking all of this energy, so to speak, and entering it into a panemius, into an internal way, all the days of Yom Tovim for the entire month of Tishrei. So it's literally the culmination, if you would, the Shalom Aleichem, the foundation of all the energy that comes down for the entire month of Tishrei, for all these festivals that we've just finished enjoying, literally comes into Shabbos Bereishis. That's one of the explanations as to why Shabbos Bereishis is so important. And the second one, in addition to this, is it is the beginning of preparation for our service of the ordinary year that is coming forth. Because it is blessing the Shabbos of the for the entire month of Mar Cheshbon, Chodesh HaHolin, HaRishon Shel Hashanah HaDasha, literally the first month of the year. We know that it is announced by the Gabbai in shuls around the world, especially in 770, in the final Farbringen of Simchas Torah. At the end of the Farbringen, the Gabbai pounds on the table, stands up, and announces, Yaakov holech ledarchei, and Yaakov went on his way. Ledarchei dafka, literally on his way. What does it mean? Ish tachas gafnoi v'tachas tanasoi. Literally, it is time after we have all this tremendous energy that we have just brought down into the world in general and into our individual world specifically. And now we're taking that energy, and what is the point, right? The whole point is to use that energy to go to work. And I don't mean physical work, although we do need energy for physical work. I'm talking about God's work, that we now have all this energy. So just to back up, so Shabbos Bereishis. So we're saying it has these two dual things that are making it so important. On one hand, it's taking all the energy from the whole month of Tishrei, from Rosh Hashanah, from Yom Kippur, from Sukkot, from Hoshana Rabbah, from Shmini Atzeres, from Simchas Torah, and drawing all that energy down and internalizing it. And now, so that's one capacity. And the second capacity is taking that energy and using it to prepare us to enter into the world, to enter in that Yaakov goes on his way, meaning we've rolled around with God together. Literally, that's what Shmini Atzeres is. After the 7 days of the 70 offerings by the nations of the world, we have Shmini Atzeres, where just one bull is offered by the Yidden, where God says today, for these 48 hours, if you're in Eretz Yisrael, Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah are 1 day, but here in the diaspora, we have 2 days. It's literally us with God, just dancing with God. The Torah is wrapped up. We're just dancing, and we are alone with you, God, dancing together and celebrating that we're Yidden and celebrating that you've taken us as your chosen nation and we're one together with you. But now we got to get to work. We got to take all that energy, and that's the second aspect of Shabbos Bereishis, and we have to use it to bring it into the world and to fulfill our mission as Yidden, which is not only as makablim, in other words, not only as receivers of God's energy, but as mashpiyim, as giving over and spreading God's energy into the world. And in general, Shabbos Bereishis includes both of these energies of drawing down and receiving this light, and the energies of spreading out the lights, entering into the world, so to speak. He HaShabbos Acharoina Shel Chodesh Tishrei V'hi HaBarachas Shel Chodesh HaChelin HaRishon Shel Hashanah. It's the Shabbos that literally is the last Shabbos of the month of Tishrei, and it is the Shabbos that prepares us for the rest of the mundane year, if you will, that we have to enter into and bring this energy forth to. And therefore, this Shabbos gives us a very unique power, more so than in any other Shabbos, if you will, in order that we should use that power on how we're going to conduct ourselves for the upcoming year. Omonim shal chodesh Tishrei atzmai mekevan shehu b'dargas reishis. And we know that the month of Tishrei itself is literally the level of Reshis, as we pointed out. It's the same spelling of Tishrei, Reshis meaning beginning. That literally is removed and separated from every other month of the year. It is literally a month that is filled with mitzvahs and holiness. B'mila ein b'toichin kol kach she'ochlu lehamshich es hamitzvah hamerumah shel chodesh Tishrei b'yamei hashavua b'pshutim shel Hashanah. And automatically we see that it is, one second. That therefore, because of this power and this unique power, automatically we see how it has the ability to draw down from the entire month of Tishrei and literally spread out throughout the rest of the year. Again, so it's has this duality. So we see the special power of Shabbos Bereshis is hinted in the name of Bereshis, because Bereshis literally begins with Resh, or Rosh, or head. Because it's the beginning and the head of the entire year. Not only that, Shabbos Bereshis is opening up with the very first parsha of the Torah, Bereshis, which we're learning now, which is arguably the most exciting part of the entire Torah. It's literally opening up. It's literally God's literally opening and setting the stage for all of creation, for the whole purpose of creation and this beginning cycle of the year, if you will. And by the way, we know that we're supposed to live with the times and live with the parsha of the week. And it's a very special time because we are now resetting. And, just to keep in mind, and now is not the time to get into it in depth, but the Torah is not a history book. I mean, although everything written in the Torah did take place, it is literally a living, breathing map of creation in all of our lives. And when we whether we realize it or not, every single year on Rosh Hashanah, we all stand in judgment in front of God. He, on Yom Kippur, cleanses us of all our sins. The 7 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur correspond to the 7 emotional attributes of our body, the 7 spherotes, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus, are the way we, we connect to God and we connect to others, that energy. And then the 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot are representative of, hold on a second, I'm having a, why did this just pop up here? Okay, there we go. Are God's 4 names, Yud, He, Vav, Ke, between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. And when we get into Sukkot and we're sitting in the Sukkah, we're completely brand new entities. We may not realize it. We may not be spiritually sensitive enough to feel it. And we may feel like we're the same, but we literally are brand new. And we're sitting in a sukkah and we're just drawing down all this divine energy into us. So now that we're entering into the world, we are literally a brand new creation. And we have another opportunity literally to go out into the world and to refine the world and to refine ourselves. And we do that through living together with the Torah. The first letter or the first word of the Torah is Bereshis, and the last word of the Torah is Yisrael. So the first letter of the Torah is Beis, and the last letter of the Torah is Lamed. Lamed Beis is Lev, it's the heart. The Torah is literally a blueprint and a map of not only the macrocosm heart, if you will, of what is known as Adam Kadmon, or the primordial man, which represents all of the universe, but as a microcosm of each one of our hearts and each one of our divine service. So it's a very real thing. When you learn Torah and you live with the Torah, you're literally connecting to God and connecting, we should say reconnecting to your divine purpose. So this is a tremendous time where we're now learning the beginning of the Torah, and we're now reconnecting and re-entering into a clean slate, if you will, and a brand new opportunity to use this energy irrespective of what we've done in the past. You know, one of I don't want to get too much off topic, but the one of the beautiful things about our relationship with God is that door is always open. God doesn't sit there and say, well, you know, you've been a putz for the last 30 years, so why should I listen to you now? Why should I believe you now? It doesn't care. I mean, tshuva means to return. It means to forget about what you did yesterday, to stop looking in the past and say, oh, well, I did this wrong, or I did that wrong, or, I didn't eat kosher yesterday. Why should I eat kosher today? We are brand new. And at every moment, we have the opportunity to seize that moment and literally live based on the way that God created us. And that is the ultimate key to happiness, is by accepting our identity and our mission in this world. So anyways, we're now in that energy in Parshas Bereshis. Torah, and when we begin the reading of the Torah, as we're doing now, brand new, literally, it's drawing down this energy for the entire year. As kach yimshach kol hashana. The hemshich as hamitzav hana'al mechodesh Tishrei ba'avodas hayomi yomi ba'edom b'mei ha'chol ba'oidin ha'dechol. And the Rebbe is bringing this point again, that this Shabbos is literally the connector, the go-between, if you will, between all the energy that we brought in from all the holidays, the divine power and energy we brought in from the holidays in the month of Tishrei, and the entry or the re-entry, if you will, into the world. It's interesting. We were in shul after the Farbrengen for Simchas Torah, and someone said to the shul, we're leaving. They said, back to reality. I said, no. We've been in reality for the last month. We're going back to the false world. It depends how you look at it, right? It's all perspective. We could sit and say that the day-to-day mundane world is the reality, and then we take a break for the holidays and Shabbats. I think it's the opposite. I think holidays and Shabbat are the real true reality, where we're connected to God and we're just totally one with God. And then we have to take that energy and bring it into the mundane world. Okay. Kafi shemuvan gam betoichna. Shal Parshas Bereshis, Shava Medubar Oides Masa Bereshis. And furthermore, we can understand also what it is Shabbos Bereshis, and explain what is this concept of Masa Bereshis, of the creation of Bereshis. Oide Kriya B'Torah B'Pasuk Bereshis. According to the Torah in the Pasuk of Parshas Bereshis, Bereshis Ba'Elokim Eser Shamayim V'Eser Haaretz. Literally, God, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Mechadeshes Bria shall call Inini ha'olam l'shana ha'chadashan. Literally, he renews creation and all the matters of the world every single year, brand new. V'zeh notein es ha'koach da'amod da'hamid. And this gives us the power that we need literally for our divine service through the entire, all the matters of the world, for the entire upcoming year. Again, the Torah is not a history book, so when we're learning Bereshis bara Elokim eser shamayim v'eser haaretz, that God created the heaven and the earth. It's not only that God created, but God creates the heaven and the earth. So yes, 5,781 years ago, for the first time, God created heaven and earth. But every single year on Parshas Bereshis, when we start over the new cycle, God is recreating from brand new heaven and earth. To a physical eye, we don't see it because everything looks the same to us. But if you looked at it from a spiritual lens, you would literally see on Rosh Hashanah, on the night of Rosh Hashanah, God puts a pause on the world. It's the only time of the year that God literally takes his hand, so to speak, off creation. And he makes a determination if he wants to continue renewing the world. And he goes through this whole process with us. And of course, thank God he agrees, or we wouldn't be here right now. And then Shabbos Bereshis, we start all over again. So we are brand new, right? So just pause and think about that for a second. Like, how could you sit and say, oh, it's not my fault, I'm like my mother, or I'm just like my father, or I guess I'm just lazy, or I guess I'm just stupid, or no. This is klipa. This is Yetzer Hara. This is an artificial voice that is trying to draw you back into slavery of a past existence that no longer exists. The true reality is you're brand new. God has literally given each one of us a blank slate and paint and said, make the world beautiful. You can't necessarily choose who you are, where you are, what you're doing, but you could choose what to do with it. You could choose to be miserable. You could choose to be happy. You could choose to make your reality godly, or you could choose to put your head down and have a victim or a defeatist mentality. And all that is happening right now, brand new reality, base. First, we have to understand even more what it means, according to our rabbis, the lashon, the language of Bereshis. Bishvil Torah shenikra as Reshis, darka bishvil Yisrael shenikra Reshis. The voice side. We know, and it's brought down in the Torah, that Bereshis means beginning. And literally, the everything in the world was created for two beginnings. It was created for the Torah. This was one beginning. And it was created for the Yidden, for the Jewish people. This is the second beginning. Bekivan shedarshas chazal, who called Tevas Bereshis, the Kai, Bepashtus, Ksuvim, Shal Reshis Berias, Shemayim Ba'aris, in call Prati Habriya. As the rabbis further elucidate, that the words Bereshis are referring in a simple sense to what is written in the beginning of the creation of heaven and earth, and all the details of creation that are laid out in this parsha, this week. Mistaver no more, in other words, to explain, but prat al pi hayadua. Shishnei perushim v'tevis echad yesh b'neim shaychis. Shidrasha zo eno solo es haperush hapashut b'bereshis. Elehi ba the haisif es chayde chadash daika hadrash daika al Torah b'shvil shnikas reshis. Okay. Just bear with me tonight because my eyes are a little blundered, as you could see, and my sight is a little off. So it explains like this. All the matters are known that there is two explanations of one word, and there is both of them relevance to one another. And one doesn't negate the other. This whole concept of Bereshis, which is referring to the beginning. And these two beginnings. So let's talk about that. The Fizad Rosh Habiyor Hashaycha is Ben Perush Hazal, the Perush Hapashut. But Pashtu Sarizah Shnei Perushim, Shining Min Hakatsa Al Katsa. So according to the explanation, we can understand the relevance between what Chazal explained and the simple meaning of what it means Bereshis. So Bereshis Sarizah Shnei Perushim, that the two explanations of Bereshis, that both of them literally seem to be from one end to the other. We're going to explain what that is. The feed Darshas Hazal Ein Taiva Bereshis Mitchayeset the Brias Ha'elam Eler Torah of Israel. So, according to what explained by Hazal, that there's not the word Bereshis Mitchayeset the Brias Ha'elam, referring to the creation of the world, rather the Torah and the Jewish people. Shekoidama the Bria V'Einam Shelo Be'erech L'Mailas Mahabria. So according to Chazal, Bereshis is not really referring at all to heaven and earth and to creation. According to Chazal, according to our sages, the explanation of Bereshis is referring specifically to the Torah and to the Jewish people. That literally they precede the creation and literally are completely above from creation, completely removed and above from creation. Because when we learn the pshat, when we learn the simple meaning of the parsha, when it says Bereshis bara Elokim, it seems to be that Bereshis is referring to creation. That it's talking about that in the beginning God created the heaven and earth. That's the simple meaning. But the rabbis say, no, the heaven and earth really are afterthoughts. They've got nothing to do with this, so to speak. They're the backdrop. In fact, Bereshis, what God really created, is the Jewish people and the Torah. And the world is just an arena, if you will. And this question is strengthened even more according to what Rashi explains in the pasuk. And it's brought down. Bereshis bara Elokim. Rashi explains, what does it mean? The world was created for the Torah and for the Jewish people. The Acher Michan Yemshech Rashi, and afterwards it further down explains, Vim ba'az the parshu b'pshuta, kach parshehu, Bereshis b'riyas shemayim ba'arts hayesat tohu v'bala v'choshech. Literally, in a simple way, explaining that Bereshis is talking about the creation of the heaven and the earth, and that the earth was filled in tohu bohu, literally void and emptiness and darkness. And then God said, "Let there be light." And it's not to the beginning of the Torah that is not connected so much to the words that come after it. So it's not really understood. So hold on a second. We're trying to differentiate or understand the different opinions between what the rabbis consider Bereshis and what is the simple meaning of Bereshis, which we see in the Torah. So Bereshis bara, when it says God created, this is referring in a simple sense to what is written. And what does it say? Bereshis bara Elokim eser shemayim va'aretz. That the Bereshis, that what God created, is referring to the creation of heaven and earth. That is the pshat. That's the simple understanding. But Rashi himself says the second explanation. Hu pshuto masha'ein kene perush rishoin hu the rishoini medua mivi Rashi haklo. As Hadrasha Bereshis call up Kavanas and Brias. Shem Kadmoi Vishaloi Be'erech L'Mayla Mahabria. Referring to all the intentions of creation and that they preceded and that are compared to all from above from creation. V'filo im Rashi tzarich lahavi or deroshi seher kol akapanim lakam es perush pshut. We've explained in a second, a Torah, but Bereshis bara, but first Rashi, lo hayatzrik l'tchil es Torah ela mechador mechodesh lechem. So we're trying to make sense as to what is exactly it means Bereshis. It's referring to the creation of heaven and earth, or it's referring to the Torah and the Jewish people. But furthermore, we have another question, because the beginning of the if in fact the Torah was created for the Yidden, and if in fact Bereshis is referring to creation of the Torah and the Yidden and the Jewish people, then why isn't the Torah beginning with the pasuk Because the very first mitzvah given to the Jewish people, she mitzvahs rishonot tzivah bo Yisrael, umatam pesach bereshis. In other words, if we're going to say that Bereshis is referring to the creation of not the world, but the whole beginning is referring to the Jewish people in the Torah. So why is the Torah beginning with the creation of the world? It seems to be if the opening pasuk of the Torah is that God created the heaven and earth, then that is what it's referring to. Bereshis means the beginning is heaven and earth. But if it means that God created, that the whole purpose is for the Jewish people in the Torah, then the opening of the Torah shouldn't be about the creation of the world. It should be connected to the very first mitzvah that was given to the Jewish people. And what was that? When we left Egypt, the very first commandment given to us as a nation was that we have to sanctify the moon and sanctify the months. We have to count every single month. It should be to you a brand new month. This is the first mitzvah given to the Edom. So why is it opening with Bereshis if the whole point is the Jewish people in the Torah? From this we can understand from this explanation, it would seem to be that in fact the Bereshis that Hazal are referring to is not the Jewish people in the Torah, but in fact it is about creation. Because the proof is that the beginning of the Torah is specifically talking about creation. Bereshis bara Elokim. It's connected to the very creation itself. And if so, how is Rashi literally saying, because Rashi is pshat, right? Rashi isn't coming to bring us Kabbalistic insights. He's coming to bring us the simple explanation. So how could it be that Rashi is saying that Bereshis is referring specifically to the Torah and the Jewish people? That is some of our opening questions that we're going to get into. Gimel. So there is to say an explanation of this. According to the rabbis, Bereshis is referring to the ultimate intention and goal of all of creation. B'shvil Torah shenikras Reshis, in order for the purpose of the Torah, which is called Reshis, B'shvil Yisrael shenikra Reshis, and for the purpose of the Yidden, the Jewish people, which are called Reshis. And from this we can understand that the Torah and the Jewish people, they are the Reshis, they are the beginning. Eino medubar kafi shehem legamei na'alim mahabriya. If anyone's following inside, I'm skipping the brackets just for time purposes. Ela beikar kafi shehem uvoim. No wait. Chedek mahabriya. Hem Reshis abriya. V'shvilim nivrau Edom. So there's not explaining this, that they are the complete advantage from creation, the reason for creation, if you will. Rather, and mainly, according to them, they are part from the creation. And the Reshis is referring specifically to the creation that was created, B'shvilim nivra Edom. And in order for them, the world was created. In other words, from this we can understand. From the Lashon Reshis itself. Mishma'osai shall Reshis he kamo Reshis tevoisai. He Reshis he mitchil yichad kedavar echad im kol ha tavua va'acharach b'churim bo Reshis tevoisai. Okay, 1 second. According to this, we can understand from the Lashon's Reshis itself that it's implying the Reshis is like the first crops of you will, and this is referring to the Jewish people. And this beginning from the onset doesn't mean that they're something separated from the creation, if you will, But in fact, they are, 1 second, Bichad b'davar echad im kol hatavua. Specifically, one from the first crops, and afterwards is the rest of the crops. In other words, let me read this paragraph inside, then we're going to explain. Vivan the fi habir hatanya melashen atfila. So again, just to recap, we're trying to make sense of what is this whole Bereshis referring to the beginning, and the whole purpose and what it means. Bereshis, it's referring specifically to heaven and earth, or it's referring specifically to the Jewish people in the Torah. So the Alter Rebbe brings down in the Tanya that from the pasuk of tefillah, of prayer, where it says that God literally chose us from amongst all the nations, all the tongues. Okay, now we're starting to get into a little bit deeper meat. And we're going to see how all these things are connected. So if you ask the average person, when it says, God chose us from amongst all the nations to be his chosen people, if you will, that doesn't necessarily, no one is saying that the Jewish people are better than other nations. It means that they were chosen for a specific mission, a very difficult mission, if you will, which is evidenced by the fact that the Jewish people have been thrown out of and exiled from over 129 countries since the creation of the world, and have suffered more than any other nation remotely close combined. And yet the door is open for anyone who wants to be part of this nation to go through a proper conversion and do so. When it says that the Jewish people were chosen as God's people, it means we are chosen as his ambassadors of the world to spread light into the world, to bring goodness into the world, to use the Torah as the blueprint for all creation and be a light unto the nations and to educate them. And when it says he chose us, if you ask most people, when it means God chose the Jewish people as his chosen nation, what are you referring to? Their souls or their bodies. The typical response you get is their souls, and that's incorrect. The answer, as we're going to speak about now, is referring to their physical bodies. That God literally chose over here, it says, the chomri, the guf hachomri, the material physicality of the Jewish people. And he's going to explain what that means. That he literally chose our physical material bodies from amongst all the nations. Because free choice has to be between two things that are equal. If someone says right now, you want $100 or $1, that's not giving you free choice, because who's going to choose $1 over $100? If someone says you want $100 in gold and $100 in silver, now you've got a choice to make, right? You want an apple or an orange? There have to be two comparable things to have real free choice. Otherwise, it's not a real choice. There can't really be any major differences between the two choices, or they're not, or it's not a choice. These two things have to be very similar in their level and in their similarities for it to be proper free choice. Otherwise, it's not considered choice. And since it's depending on the will, so to speak, on the desire to choose between both of them, these two options, then therefore they have to be, the first and second options have to be equal enough for it to constitute free choice. A bechira, free choice, Zeh, or choice, if you will, Zeh, Shiba Yoser, Be'echad, Mehem. Ein Zeh Bilal Tam Kishol. If one of the options is superior or has a distinct advantage over the other option, it's not choice. That's not a legitimate choice. Either rak mishum shekach b'char. Im hu b'yochar devar misiyami b'gulal tam gam zeh elo b'chira amitis b'chira pashit. Hayois v'hata'am pual shetaya netia asher l'chricha oisu l'bachor devar zeh b'chira amitis he kasher ein bo shum tam v'shum netia. Free choice, true free choice has to be that there's no clear reasoning or logic why you're picking one over the other. Rather, it's just a desire. Again, we have an apple and an orange. Some people desire an apple, some desire an orange. They're, okay. But you can't say there's an inherent value of an apple over an orange. Because there's not. It's a tum. It's a taste. It's just you choose which one you prefer, but they have to be of equal footing, if you will, to have proper free choice. And therefore, the true choice of God choosing the Jewish people to be His chosen nation for their mission in the world must be their bodies. And He chose the raw material of our physical bodies over the raw material of the physical bodies. I am sorry, I just saw the question right now. I am learning from Devar Malchus, which is the teachings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. They could be found in Sefer HaSichos, which are the Sichos of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. They're the most recent teachings of the Rebbe, which is Parshas Bereshis. This Sicha was originally given in Tafshin Nun Beis, 1992, or the Hebrew year 5752. So anyone who wants to follow along in Hebrew, this is the Devar Malchus series. They're put together in specific books. Or you can get Sefer HaSichos of the Rebbe and look up the most recent Parsha Bereshis from 1992. It's the most recent teachings we have from the Rebbe. Okay, so it has to be specifically that he chose the coarse material of the Jewish body over the coarse material of the bodies of the nations of the world. Because if you look at the very raw basic elements, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, we're not even talking about the physical body, we're talking about the coarse material the body's made from. From that perspective, they all look the same. So God basically said, I'm going to choose these instead of those. Because again, if there weren't equal choosings, you would not have free choice. And therefore we see how can we say that God chose the soul of the Jewish people over the soul of the nations of the world? Because the soul that God put into the Jewish people is literally a portion of God Himself. The soul, everyone has a soul. A rock has a soul, a plant has a soul, an animal has a soul, everything has a soul to keep it going. But only a Jew has what we say as a godly soul. It has an additional soul that is literally part of God. So if we're saying that God chose the soul of the Jewish people, we can't say such a thing. Because how do you compare a godly soul as an addition to a regular soul? That's not free choice. There would be a distinct advantage in that. The godly soul came afterwards. God put the godly soul in afterwards. Then otherwise it wouldn't be free choice. And therefore, when God chose, the Jewish people, he chose specifically the physical body, or the coarseness, or the material he made the body. Otherwise, again, it wouldn't be free choice. We can't say that God made an equal choice. It was specifically the body that he found amongst all the nations. That when he says, I chose you to be my nation, he literally chose us from the coarsest, most physical aspect of all of creation, the physical aspect, the physical bodies. That I will choose you to be a segula, to be a cherished nation from amongst all the people. I chose you from amongst all the nations. In other words, I chose, in front of God, he had all the different nations and all the coarse materials of the physical bodies, and said, I want to put my godly soul into these specific bodies. That's what made it a free choice, because it was literally like the raw materials of creation that God made the choices from. And specifically is brought down from the language of the Alter Rebbe in the Tanya, that he specifically chose the chayimri of the guf, literally the raw material, the coarse material of the physical body. Not only the body is already formed. He's talking about even a more raw material, the clay, if you will, that he made the mold from. In other words, the body is already the mold, and then the soul gets put in the mold. We're talking about the actual clay, the coarse material from the bodies. Below gufa gashmi, not literally the physical body. Gama gufa gashmi shal Yehudi because the physical body of the Jew is still different than the physical body of the non-Jew. Why? Because mitzad zoicha haguf dam v'sar. Because when a Jew eats kosher food and drinks kosher wine and says a proper blessing, that kosher food that's going inside is refining the coarseness of the physical body. Therefore, if he was choosing the physical body, it wouldn't be free choice, because the physical body would have an advantage, because the physical body has been refined through eating kosher food and drinking kosher drinks. And therefore, when we're referring specifically to the free choice that God made in choosing the Jewish people, we're talking dafka b'gufa chayimri. The chayimri is the coarseness, again, the coarse, raw building clay, if you will. And this is the lowest level of creation, the dirt of the earth, the physical, most physical of the earth. That the coarseness literally is the foundation of the earth. The literal foundation of all creation. I chose you from amongst all the nations and all the speeches. And this choice is from a place that it says Lamaila Tam Vadas, above knowledge and understanding. In other words, it's not, when we're talking about this concept of the Maila Tam Vadas, it means above logic or understanding. You can't, someone who likes an apple more than an orange, or chooses an apple over an orange, can't sit and say with any clear logic why that apple is better than the orange. Because the person who likes the orange will use just as much logic to say that the orange is better than the apple, right? I like chocolate, you like vanilla. You're going to convince me that vanilla is better, and I'm going to convince you chocolate. You're not, because it's not, this isn't logic. And it's the same thing. When God chose this coarseness and said, this is where I want to put my godly soul, this is what I'm going to choose for my special mission to be a light unto the nations, it was above logic. It wasn't like, this clay looks better than that clay, otherwise it's not free choice. And again, this is a new concept to most people who are learning or hearing this concept for the first time, because you would think it's connected to the soul. The soul came afterwards. We're talking about the raw, coarse physical body. Let's continue. And from this we can understand that the Jewish people were chosen as the reshis, as the beginning, or the the initial thought for creation, it's not referring to the soul. Rather, ela gam b'nogel haguf. And it's not even connected to the body, as we said above, because the body is already you got it, man. Shalom. Because the body is already formed, and that body already is being purified through kosher food and kosher drink. We're talking about guf hachomri shalidi. The physical course building material that God chose. Yesh elui legabi hamayda sheyesh lehudi metzad atzmoi chayus v'dafka boi niglase bechira shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bechira amitis hu rak ba'atzmos machus. That this choice, this true choice God made, was on the essence of the thing, much deeper, connected to the coarseness of everything. Again, otherwise it's not free choice. And when we see the connection to the Jewish people being chosen as the first, as the beginning, we see that this is an example, and it's also connected to the Torah, which is also considered the second beginning. Again, we're navigating through this initial dichotomy of what is Bereshis? It's heaven and earth, or it's the Torah and the Jewish people. And if you're noticing, you're seeing that we're in a way kind of bringing all this together. So now we just spoke about the Jewish people. Now we're talking about the Torah. Shleimus HaTorah hu dafka kafi shenehem kanamat. Because the ultimate purpose of the Torah is for the completion of the physical world. The Torah wasn't given in heaven. The Torah is given down here in the physical world. And therefore we need the world, so to speak, to be the backdrop or the arena, if you will, for the Torah to be learned and taught and spread. Because the Torah is not up in heaven. Psuki dine haTorah teluyim dafka b'hafral b'sekel hagashmi shel haYehudim. That specifically the halacha decisions of the Torah are dependent on the sekel, on the physical mind of the Jewish people and the rabbis of bringing forth these laws and elucidating them in such a way that we can live by them in our physical bodies in a physical world. And therefore the Torah had to come down, had to travel down into the physical world. And enclosed in the physical matters of this world. And literally, I lost my place. The matters of the Torah needed to be enclosed in physical things of the world. And we know that the majority of the mitzvahs in the Torah are connected specifically, as well as the letters of the Torah, to the physical actions in this world. In fact, we know that the Torah is the blueprint for creation. It preceded the world. And the Hebrew alphabet, called alphabet, but that's not an accident that the English language is called the alphabet and the Hebrew language is called the Aleph Bet. So the Aleph Bet, the 22 letters that God used for creation, are the building blocks of creation. It's not just another language. There's a reason the Torah was given in Hebrew. The Sefer Yetzirah talks about the 231 gates that all divine energy channels through to come into this world, and that forms everything in this world. The 231 gates are the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph Bet, and all their combinations. So you have Aleph Bet all the way down to Taf, and then you have Aleph Bet, you have Aleph Gimel, you have Aleph Dalet, then you have Bet, Aleph Bet. Each one of those letters correspond to another letter, and that makes 231 combinations, and it forms a sphere. And all that energy forms and shapes every aspect of creation. So the Torah and the Hebrew language is literally the building block and the blueprints for all of creation. And it's all based on this physical world. Again, a chiddush for a lot of people, even observant Jews. The whole point of creation isn't to get to heaven. The whole point of creation is bringing heaven down into this world. That's why the greatest tzaddikim who ever lived will return into their physical bodies when Moshiach comes. The whole purpose of the Beis Hamikdash isn't to be in heaven, it's to be down here, for God to be in this physical world, to transform a physical world that conceals God in a mundane world into a godly world that reveals God. And the Torah is the bridge to connect spiritual, if you will, to physical, an infinite God to a finite world. And therefore we find the Torah has to be down here in the physical world. And has to be revealed in its essence down here. שגם כפי שהתורה נמצאים אודם הסחורה, רואים כי טויב סחורה בכל הסחורה. שלמר התורה אסור למות העולם על דרך המדובר לאל בנוגע לגוף החומרי של יהודי. That literally the whole purpose of the Torah is for the Jewish people to learn it and use it as a tool to refine the world. Okay, skip the brackets again. Whoever is following at home inside, I do skip the brackets because these are long sichas, and kol hakavod to whoever is watching and staying with us or watching afterwards, because they're deep. This is advanced stuff. This is not simple. I mean, we do our best to simplify it, but we get through the whole sicha with God's help in 2.5 hours. From 8:30 to 11 is our live launch time, and if we went into all the brackets, it would just take too much time. So let's continue. We're on now Dalet. And it's not an overly long sicha, so we will definitely finish probably early this evening. Al pi muvan dechoresh haperush haperush chazal shel bereshis. B'shvil Torah shenikra reshis, b'shvil Yisrael shenikra reshis. So according to this, we can understand the unique explanation of the rabbis. Where that when it's talking about Bereshis, it's not referring to the creation of heaven and earth, but referring to the two beginnings, base Reshis, and the two beginnings being the Jewish people that were chosen from the coarseness and the materialism that was used to make physicality, and the Torah, which was chosen to come down into this world as a vehicle for the Jewish people to use to help God transform this world into a godly place. Ikar hachidush b'zehi lo shehatorah v'Yisrael einam reishis ve'etzem nomar legami mahabria. And the unique thing we can learn out from this, and a way how we're gonna start fusing these two explanations together, is that the Torah and the Jewish people as Reshis were not meant as Reshis in and of themselves, literally above the world. In other words, God didn't create the Torah, the world, for the Jewish people and the Torah, for the Torah to stay up in heaven and for the souls of what will become the Jewish people to stay in heaven. That's not the point. The whole point is that both of them, the Jewish people and the Torah, should enter into the world, to creation, into the physical coarse body of the Jew. Then it will be revealed that they are the chosen, so to speak, and the beginning of all of creation. Reshis of Bria, but Torah Yisrael shenikra Reshis, L'mal HaBria. And now we can see that according to the two explanations of Bereshis, that the beginning, Bereshis, is referring to creation, and then it's referring to the Torah and the Jewish people. That since the Torah and the Jewish people are above of creation, literally Reshis, the beginning before creation took place, and literally a portion from the creation itself. That in order for the Jewish people in the Torah to be part of creation and exist in creation, in the physical bodies of the Jew in this world, that God chose this physical coarse material of creation that he made bodies with, the Jewish material over the non-Jewish material. And this level itself, creation, it will be revealed and recognized and how through all the world that they are the rashis of the world. In other words, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we're culminating to this point that there's no stira, there's no contradiction. Because in order for it to be revealed, that the ultimate purpose of creation is for God to be revealed in the world. And to do that, God he chose ambassadors to be his literally his ambassadors to carry out that function. And what is that function? That is taking God's Torah and revealing it in this world and bringing the world to an ultimate state of morality, of ethicalness, and also of godliness. And he chose the Jewish people in the Torah to do so, but he also chose the world to be the means in which they would do so. So there's not really any contradiction here. Rashi as a perush, and then we can understand Rashi according to what he explains. This is not a contradiction. We said that it's for the Jewish people and for the Torah. It's not a contradiction that Bereshis is referring to the world. On the contrary, on the contrary, the Jewish people in the Torah got chosen as the two beginnings, base Reshis, in order to bring about completion to the world, which is also Bereshis. And their goal and the purpose that God chose the Jewish people and the Torah as his two beginnings is in order to reveal the true inner, deeper intention of the existence of the world. And this is the main point. Habriya es Shemayim va'aretz, that the creation of heaven and earth, exists only to reveal the true choice and the true beginning of the Jewish people in the Torah. That this is now explaining how the advantage of God choosing the Jewish people in the Torah as the two beginnings in order to reveal the true inner dimension of the beginning of the world. In other words, I'm going to lahavdil, to make a separation, just to completely simplify this. Take a sport game. Take basketball, if you will. The point of the basketball court isn't to exist for in and of itself, right? The whole point of the basketball court is to play the game. And who's playing? What do you need to play the game? You need the players and you need the basketball. Without the players and the basketball, then what's the point of the game? But on the other hand, in order for the players and the basketball to fulfill their functions, they need a court, right? And they need rules. So the Jewish people, in a way, are like the basketball players, lahavdil. And the ball and the rules are like the Torah, that this is the means and the mechanism and the rules of the game that we have to play. And the courts, the arena, is the world that is the backdrop for us to function and do what we need to do. And we see this connected also in the completion of Parshas Bereshis. Noach, and Noach found favor in God's eyes. And God willing, next week's parsha we're going to get into Noach. the Bereshis is definitely the most exciting book of the whole entire Torah, and the beginning three parshas, Bereshis, Noach, and Lech Lecha, literally set the stage for everything after it. All very, very powerful for Torah portions and sichos from the Rebbe in these Nun Aleph, Nun Beis sequence. Anyway, so it says, in the end of Parshas Bereshis, it says, Noach found favor in God's eyes. That the favor, or chen means literally, how do you translate chen? Favor, grace, if you will, or yeah, I would say grace is a good form, is a good word for it. Charm, grace, something that's, this itself is something that is above matters of reason or understanding, right? This is al derech inyan habechira. Wait, hold on. Inyan habechira. Va'al pi yadua shezchrias Noach v'gam es Noach b'ahava zecharas. 1 second. Hine mitzad etzem ma'alas neshamas Yisrael. Yesh l'mor sheyesh l'zeh kasher l'tchila parshas Bereshis. Okay. So this is that Noah found favor in God's eyes. This is connected to a matter of choice. That favor, finding favor in one thing over another is not really connected to logic or understanding. And from this itself, we see the advantage of the soul of the Jewish people, that there is to say that there is in this connection to the beginning of the Parshas Bereshis, that God created the world for the sake of the Yidden. And this is revealed in the world. Because Noach found favor in the eyes of God. And literally we see that God afterwards brought forth the flood. And then after we see it brought us to the situation, these are the offsprings of Noach, talking about the end of this week's Parsha and the beginning of next week's Parsha. Referring to above and below. Shagam betachtonim nasa nicha. Begachim zachonis oilam, into the physicality of the world. Okay. Hey, we're gonna explain a little bit. Sorry, my eye is totally swelling up here. Just making a reference to this concept of choosing and free choice that has to come. The fact that God is choosing one over another is a process that is above logic or understanding. Okay, hey, we can always understand the relevance to the explanation of Rashi when it's talking about Bereshis. That why didn't, if Rashi is bringing forth that the purpose of creation is the Yidden, then why didn't the Torah begin with the first commandment to the Jewish people, which is that you shall, these months you should take or count for yourselves. The first commandment given to the Jewish people as a nation when we went out of Egypt. If that's the whole point, then that's, why is that not the beginning of the Torah? Bereshis mishum koach ma'asev hagil la'amo v'teis lehem nachalas goyim. And what is the reason that Bereshis is opening up, showing that God's power to literally do whatever he chooses, and literally to take One second. Let me finish the paragraph. Shim Yomro Oimatzar Edom Yisrael Satim Atam Shekashvasim Artsei Shabbat Goyim Haim Onrim Lahem Kol Haaretz Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bara V'Nizna the Asher Yashar Be'ini B'Retzoinai Natalehem B'Retzoinai Natale Lama. That literally it's showing, and Rashi brings this down in the beginning of Parshas Bereshis, that the whole idea is that we're showing that since God is the one who created the world, and God is the only, no one else, no other power in the world can create something from nothing. So we're basically showing that God has the ability to choose and do whatever he wants. And that God has chosen, and in fact, Rashi even brings down that at one point in time, he's talking about the future, that the nations of the world will claim that the Jewish people have stolen the land that belongs to us. And Rashi literally brings down that God can do whatever he wants. And that although initially God allowed the nations of the world, and it's beyond the scope of what we're talking about, but it says there were 8 kings of Edom who ruled before the Jewish people, basically referring to the world of Tohu that existed prior to the world that we live in now, which is the world of Tikkun. And it gets into all sorts of things with Nephilim, the giants that came down and mated together, the angels, the giants that mated with people on this earth. It's beyond the scope of this. There's a lot of deep Kabbalistic and Midrashic explanations of what existed before this world. And the world existed in a very dark place, if you will. And that God chose to remove that negativity and bring a world of tikkun, or fixing, which he gave to the Jewish people to do. And he's basically saying that this is my world, I created it. And although I allowed you to exist in a world of chaos prior to the Jewish people, I am now taking away that world of chaos and I'm giving it to the Jewish people to fix it and make it a world, a godly world. The unique thing of this is that the Torah and the Jewish people do not exist above the world, although they do exist above the world. That's not the point. The whole point is to exist in the world. But rather, we exist and we find ourselves down here in this physical world, together with the nations of the world. Hold on, I lost my place. ויש מקוים לתנה לסתים אתם שכבשתם ארצה שבעים מגויים. And literally, God chose to take the worlds, the lands, the 7 lands of the Goyim, talking about these 7 emotional attributes that originally existed in the world of Tohu. It says there were 8, but whatever, it's beyond the scope. Let's call it 7 right now that existed in the world of Tohu that eventually became the 7 tikkun, or fixing up of these emotional attributes. And literally took them from amongst the Goyim, because this is God's will. And he chose to give them to the Yidden. That he chose us from among the nations to rectify this world, to bring godliness into this world that was a world that existed without godliness prior to this. And it is literally the power of God to choose and do what he wants. And he chose the Jewish people. They became his choice people. And this existed, that literally, according to God's will, he took this land that existed in a world of chaos or mad depravity, if you will, and chose to give it to the Jewish people instead, to use it as a world to fix up. And it's you see the irony how today they call themselves Palestine. There's no such thing as Palestine. It's a fictional entity. The Arabs that are being used as an unfortunate pawn by their own people as a negotiation and a terrorist tactic against the Jewish people are trying to claim that somehow they have a right to the land of Israel and they have a right to Jerusalem. no such thing. This is our land. God gave it to us. In fact, the Rebbe, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but the Rebbe said numerous times that if the governing bodies of Israel stood up and said to the nations of the world, there's no red line, there's no green line, there's no pact, none of that stuff. This is our land. God gave it to the Jewish people. It is God's land, and he chose to give it to us. And nobody has any business or any right to even speak about giving away any of this land. The nations of the world in 2 seconds would say, you're right, we agree with you. But when they start with this nonsense of red line and green line and, okay, you take this and we take this. Oh, you agreed not to destroy us? Okay, here, take some more, God forbid. It's insanity. It all stems from this very beginning, Rashi, from this very beginning of Bereshis. Okay. Because God chose the Jewish people, and that was his choice. And he literally chose to take the world, so to speak, that he originally allowed to exist in a state of destruction and chaos, and hand it over to the Jewish people with the instructions and the Torah to refine it and to make it a godly world. The Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, the choice land for the choice nation. Make no mistake about it. The final war that we're living through right now, the world of Gog and Magog, that is spoken about in all the prophecies, that is brought down in countless places in the Tanakh. It is not a physical war, although it potentially will and may manifest into a physical war. God forbid, Moshiach should come before. In fact, the Rebbe said already that the Gulf War was Gog and Magog. But Gog, or Gog, or Magog, is the same word of Gag, or Magad, which means roof. So the majority of the Mefarshim explain that the final war is literally roof from roof. What is the head roof? It's God. That God creates everything. The lower roofs are things that people believe in that give them power, or that they want to believe in other than God. The final war of Moshiach that he's fighting right now, it says he will fight the war of God and be successful. It's a spiritual war. The final war literally is against God. I mean, that's really where it's going to boil down to. You're with God, then you're with the Jewish people, and you must obey the 7 basic laws of humanity, the 7 laws of Noach, which we'll learn a little bit more now in next week's Parsha. And if so, you have a right to exist in eternal joy and happiness with God and the Jewish people in a good, moral, and godly world. Or you could choose to go to war against God by going to war against the Jewish people, by thinking that the world exists for you to rape, murder, steal, and do whatever you want. And, well, you'll be gone, because that's the final war. Everything right now is really boiling down to a world with God versus people who are trying to create a world without God. And I will let you look on the news and figure out and do your own research as to who is with God and who's against God. But that's beyond the scope of what we're learning right now. Okay. And literally, when it says that God gave to us the actual physical land of Eretz Yisrael, this is literally to be revealed in this physical world. We're talking about not Eretz Yisrael as it exists spiritually above, but the physical world of Israel down here in reality. And he chose to give it to his chosen nation, the Jewish people. That's why Israel and Yisrael, the name of the country and the name of the people, are the same. And we see this connected also throughout the continuation of the Parsha. The Acher, Parshas Bereshis, or Parshas Noach. After Parshas Bereshis and Parshas Noach, Megia Parshas Lech Lecha. Then we reach Parshas Lech Lecha. Shabo Mesupar Echa Kodesh Baruch Hu Abraham Lech Lecha Me'artzecha Mo'adecha Bebesedecha Ha'aretz Asher Arecha. And in Parshas Lech Lecha we see how Hashem commanded Abraham, the first Jew, to leave from his land and his birthplace and his father's house, the land I will show you. That Abraham existed in this physical, coarse world. Artzecha, your land, Modecha, your birthplace, Beit Avicha, and your father's home. Literally, to go out to the land that I will show you. And afterwards, literally, Hashem gave the land of Eretz Yisrael to Abraham and his offsprings to exist forever. Avoid Bnei Yisrael, Avor Bnei Yisrael, and to all his offspring and children, the Jewish people. It's written right in the Torah. And your land is also referring to not only the physical land, but in a deeper capacity, the innermost aspect of that land. Or where it will reveal your very essence. The true essence of a Jew is revealed in Israel. That's where we keep the majority of our mitzvahs. And therefore the journey is a journey that is not compared to anywhere where you were before. Magal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, literally revealing through God. Through his choosing of his children, the Jewish people. To the very true essence of Abraham and all the Jewish people for eternity. Vav. All right, so some decent territory ahead of us. Okay. According to everything we said above, we can now really start to understand the true advantage of Shabbos Bereshis. This is so annoying. It feels like someone's poking me in the eye all day long. Okay. Asher kafei shemetziim kach zeh nimshach. According to the two advantages we pointed out before of the Jewish people, from the very essence, from above the world, between. So we pointed out the advantage we said of the Jewish people in the Torah. Not only does they exist above in the upper worlds, but down here in this physical world. And from this we can see the importance of Shabbos Bereshis, of how it is the beginning and the separation, so to speak, between the month of Tishrei and the rest of the year. B'chodesh Tishrei, the month of Tishrei. Maruba Moedes, Bodi Day Betui Begilui. In the month of Tishrei, we see how the true essence of a Jew is completely above from anything connected to the world. And especially on Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. Every single thing we do in the entire month of Tishrei, from the day of Rosh Hashanah, which is the day of judgment, where we're all in shul, when we're blowing a shofar, where to the day of Yom Kippur, where we're fasting and becoming like angels, to the 7 days of Sukkot, where we're shaking the lulav and the esrog and drawing down all that energy, and we're sitting in a sukkah, and then dancing with the Torah and Simchas Torah. These are all activities that are completely removed from the world. We do them in a physical world, but there's no one could sit. I mean, if you learn Kabbalah and Hasidus, you can clearly see why we're doing it. But to the untrained eye, there's no rational explanation why we do these things. Oh, these are customs. These are not customs. This is connecting and showing the essence of a Jew as we exist completely above from anything connected to this world. That's what the month of Tishrei is. It's the time that we literally leave this world and connect with God out of this world. We're in this world physically, but our essence is connected above. כאשר קיים המצב של יהודי לך לברכך ואין לזרעך עתך. אנא המלאכה לך לדוהי. רואים אין שמחים ייחודי עם התורה. And we see that the true joy of the Jew is connected to the Torah. And it's above from anything else. And we take that essence of who we really are, above from the world, above from any connection to the world, and we spend an entire month literally with God, just infusing oneness of divine energy, and then we take it and now we return to the world, so to speak, and go about our mission of elevating and making the world from a mundane place to a holy place, to a godly place. The Shabbos Bereshis, and that's what Shabbos Bereshis is. It's that connector. We're starting to understand now how powerful this Shabbat is, because specifically of these energies of above the world into the world that we're connecting. And it's connected to both of these matters. The advantage of the Jewish people in the Torah that are Reshis, the two beginnings in their very essence, completely from above the world. And also as we find ourselves in the world. And therefore we receive this power of Hashem, so to speak. And we take all this powerful energy that we bring down from the month of Tishrei and we use it in our service in the world. Literally every single one of us are shluchim, are emissaries of God in every aspect of our lives and every single day. We literally read the Torah that God created the heaven and the earth. And the entire reason for this world, so to speak, is for the Torah and for the Jewish people. And this is the unique power that is manifested in Shabbos Bereshis, that is drawn down for the entire year. To take this energy, this divine power, and use it to infuse it into the world, into the physical coarseness of the world. Or Gim, that God chose us from amongst the nations. It's just important to point out that when he mentions over here that every single Jew is an emissary of God, and every day of our lives and all the energy we have is to be used for that point. We see one of the reasons, and I'm not here to cast blame or judge anyone or anything, but the world exists in a state of cause and effect. In other words, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we don't get punished. The punishment is the world is not being conducted in the way it needs to be conducted. And it's a basic concept in halacha that when something is giving out, when you salt meat and the blood's coming out from it, it can't absorb other impurities because it's now in a state of giving out. So in other words, every single second of our lives, this doesn't apply to the Jewish people only, it applies to every one of us. We're acting as mishpiim or makablim. In other words, every second of our lives, we have to make a determination. Are we here to do our best and use our God-given abilities to help others, to improve the world around us, to bring positivity in the world? Or are we here, God forbid, to just receive and take in all the negative things around us? It boggles my brain of how many well-educated people spend hours and hours of a day fighting and screaming over Trump and Biden, Republican, Democrat. How can you say this? How can you scream? What is that doing? How is that benefiting you or the world in any way other than causing you aggravation and stress and distracting you from the precious moments you have in every day to use to bring good into the world? Could you imagine a world if every single person just said, you know what? I can't control what's around me, but I can control my individual life. I can choose to be nice to people. I could choose to speak good about people. I could choose to try to bring positivity into the world. The world would be a great place. And when we're emissaries and when we got sent into this world to make the world a holy place, when we don't do that, unfortunately, instead of becoming mashpiyim or givers, we automatically become mekablim or receivers, and we start entering into the negativity of the world, and it sucks us down. And the next thing you know, we're spending our lives screaming over who's going to be president, or whose new music video is about what, or banging around on our cell phones with nonsense. So the point is that every single moment of our lives is precious, and we must use every single moment we have to the best of its abilities. There's no greater gift we have in this world than time. Because after 120 years, when you go up, no one cares who you voted for. No one cares who you screamed and yelled at and criticized and judged and thought you were better than because of whatever nonsense reason. All that matters is the good you did in this world. So chapa right, use this time. It's precious. Mashiach is about to come. We're down to the last precious moments. Zion. The fact and the advantage that the Jewish people as a nation, that we got chosen for the specific mission, as we find ourselves in this physical world amongst the nations of the world. We see the main foundation of how it's necessary for a Jew to conduct our service, specifically in this time of the exile, as we just pointed out. Now's the time for working. It's the time to use these precious moments in the exile, when God is still concealed, because he's starting to reveal himself. מכיוון שכל העולם נברא בשביל ישראל, וזה בא לידי ביטוי גם בעולם הזה הגשמי, ולכן מבוא ובא בחרת בגוף החיים של היהודי, נדמה בחומרי הפך. בגוף ימות העולם, הרי מובן שבכל מעמוד המצב, בכל זמן ובכל מקום, אפילו במצב חומרי ביוסר. The fact that we got chosen as God's emissaries to fulfill our specific mission in this world means every moment of every day of our lives, wherever we are, irrespective of what's going on in the world, we have a mission. You know, when someone has clarity on who they are, their general identity, meaning God created me as a Jew or a non-Jew. I have a mission. I'm a man or a woman. That's who I am. I can't change. I can't turn myself into a woman any more than I could turn myself into a horse. When we have clarity on who we are generally, again, first, a Jew or a non-Jew, each have specific missions. The 7 laws, not verses, and on top of it, the 613 mitzvahs of the Jew. The fact that we have specific, we have the general mission to do in our world, then our specific individual identity of who I am, meaning why is my retina and my fingerprint different than everyone else in the world? In other words, God created me for a reason. And my specific purpose in being created, my mission, if you will. When you have clarity as to God, to you, your identity, and your mission, you are completely impervious to anything that's going on in the world. You could live in a state of peace, of happiness, of goodness, irrespective of what's going on around you, because you don't have any control over that. You know who you are and why you're here. And wherever you are, God put you there for a reason. And if you use that reason to bring goodness into the world, you can be happy, regardless. if he makes you rich, poor, wherever you may be. There's a purpose for that. Okay, let's continue. So this exists in every single place, even in this time of exile. We must realize that we are chosen here for a purpose, not to look around and say, "Oh, the world has gotten so bad outside; it's just terrible." I'm handing my keys in, so to speak. I'm just going to spend the rest of my life on the couch. I don't want to get into it, but over the last 6 months when we've been in this lockdown, there's been so much tremendous opportunity to learn Torah, to do mitzvahs, to connect to others, to help people. And instead, you know what the majority of people have been doing? Watching Netflix. There's a reason why Netflix stock has gone through the roof. Because everyone's sitting at home saying, "Oh, I don't have to go to work. Let me binge on this." What is that doing? How is that improving your life? How is that making you a happier or a better person? People say this phrase of killing time. It's just such a bizarre concept for me. I struggle for a few minutes a day to get to be able to do all the things that I need to and I want to do. Okay. That we must realize that God chose us for our specific mission at all times and all places, irrespective of what's going on in the world around us. And from this we can understand that when a Jew, as Jewish people, we find ourselves under the rulership, so to speak, of the nations of the world, that literally we are living in their lands. The Jewish people have been scattered or spread out throughout the entire world in many different places. Furthermore, to the point that it's possible that we don't see in a revealed way our souls, our godly souls, and the fact that we have been chosen for a specific mission. Bereshis, the beginning of the purpose of creation. In our physical bodies, amongst the nations of the world, we're still here for our mission. Because specifically God chose the coarseness of our physical body. And therefore we see that we are not subjected to the nations of the world. God forbid. In other words, we don't go according to the customs of the nations of the world because we're afraid that they're going to do something to us or persecute us. God forbid. Rather, on the contrary, because we're the chosen of the nations for God's ultimate purpose of bringing godliness into the world. And we got chosen and put in specific places amongst the nations of the world. And specifically in the time of the exile, God kind of plopped us amongst the nations of the world in different places under different rules and different customs. And God instructed us to follow and to go according to the laws of the country. In other words, let me finish, then I'll explain. Not because we're afraid of the nations of the world. That we shouldn't be intimidated or afraid of our host countries, God forbid. We don't go according to their customs because we're afraid of, God forbid, that they have some kind of power over us. On the contrary, we are the chosen. We're here for a purpose. And literally, because of us, the whole entire world was created. Al direct sivoy elo tisai es Moab al tisgavra bo melchama. She'ein zeh beglosh b'neshel tzrichan liyurei behem. V'zukukim lehem elo kafi shemufrash b'pasuk hatam. Ki lo etein lecha ma'artza v'yosher kol b'nei Yisrael loit. That's not the es rusha. Zoit emer ka, I'm just going to read through it and explain outside. Ka kavah HaKadosh Baruch Hu es haseder kashem b'retzaynu nisalan es Eretz Yisrael kach b'retzaynu halehem es artzos amot v'yotzer v'lo v'nei Yisrael v'lochem es is gava b'hacham. Or the exhibit doiga the is gara b'umot v'dina b'machus dina. Hari ein zeh b'gala pachat chas v'shalom. Adam Mishum shekach kavah HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'tzivay shekach tzrich iyois haseder b'zman hagalus. That God did not put us under, so to speak, the government leadership of the different nations of the world, that we should be afraid of them, we should be worried about them, God forbid. Because we always have to remember, regardless of where we are, regardless of the state of exile around us, we are completely free. We answer to God. Yes, that doesn't mean that we could drive 180 miles an hour and the cop pulls us over and say, who are you? I answer to God. No, we've got to follow the laws. Chaim, Yaakov. We've got to follow the laws of the nation and the host nations we got put in, not because we're afraid of them, but because that's what God instructed us to do. God spread us throughout the world and said, you are the chosen. The world was created for your purpose, to bring godliness into the world. And therefore, you must follow the laws and according to the world, right? It reminds me of the story of the Lubavitcher Rebbe when the Soviet police put a gun to his head and wanted him to reveal all he was doing to spread Judaism and keep Judaism alive in communist Russia. And they said, this little toy makes people talk. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, those who that little toy may make people talk who have many gods in one world, but I have one God in two worlds. Meaning, the soul, many places in Chassidus brought down, and even the Lubavitcher Rebbe, when they put him in jail, said the soul of a Jew can never be in prison. We are always free. We always have to remember, no matter how difficult or challenging things look in the world, never to become afraid, never to worry, and always know that it is God who is above us, and it is God who has put us exactly where we are, and that we are here on a mission. And yes, we have to follow the customs of the nations we are, not unless, God forbid, it's contrary to the Torah. But we don't do it because we're afraid. We do it because this is where God put us and this is where God instructed us. In addition to this, what it says, that we must follow the customs of the nations where we are. This is only connected to matters that are physical matters of the physical world. But it's no connection to Torah and mitzvahs. In fact, we must follow the teachings of the Torah, which is why we see, I just brought up the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the times of communist Russia. Countless Hasidim got sent to Siberia, got exiled, and even got put to death because we refused to follow the orders of Russia, which basically said stop learning Torah. If you learn Torah, if you teach mitzvahs, if you go to a mikvah, if you daven with a minyan, you do anything, we're sending you to Siberia. So we said, okay, send us to Siberia, because you have no ownership over our souls, and you have no ownership over our right to fulfill Torah and mitzvahs. And this also applies to the physical bodies of the Jew. And even as we mentioned earlier on, that the physical body of the Jew is chosen as the beginning or the purpose of creation. Again, to be God's ambassadors. In other words, God didn't choose our physical bodies to come into the world so we can, stuff our faces with food and collect Rolexes and vacation homes. That's not what it means. It means God chose us and chose our physical bodies. He put our godly soul in so we could come into this world and elevate the world by bringing godliness into the world and being a light into the nations. וזה השינוי ציווי דינו מלכוס דינו. אין זה בגלל שהוא תחת שהאבוid ממשלת אומות העולם. And when it says you must follow the customs of the nations you are in, it doesn't mean that you are under the rulership or that you're slaves or servants to these nations. Rather, you're listening to God, and God is the one who put you in exile, and God is the one who chose who is your host nation going to be. It reminds me of a little anecdote. When I first moved to Israel, when I first started my path back to Tshuva, I was sitting at someone's Shabbos table in Jerusalem, in the old city, and they're going around the table asking you to introduce yourself. And someone at the table said, I'm an American Jew. And the host corrected him and said, no, you're Jewish American. And he said, no, I'm an American Jew. He said, no, you're Jewish American. And I was like, what the hell's the difference? Didn't mean any different, make any sense to me or mean anything different. I came to realize there's a big difference. Is your allegiance to the flag of America first? In other words, you will put America before God. And if America, God forbid, says you're not allowed to learn Torah anymore, or do mitzvahs, you'll listen? No. It means our allegiance is always to God. We're Jews first. God is who's in charge of us. We're servants of God. We're not servants of any country or any flag or anything else. We respect the country we're in, and we do everything we can to follow the laws of where we are. And we're commanded to do so, but not if they contradict God's will, not if they contradict the Torah. Okay. ומזה מובן גם שחסידים שישראל מקבלים על ידי חסידי אומות העולם בזמן הגלות. And from this we could also understand that, one second, that part of our mission as Jewish people is to educate and bring purpose to the nations of the world as well in the time of the Galus. By teaching them about the 7 laws of Noah, the 7 universal laws for world peace, and how they have a place in God's world and they have a purpose in God's world, just like we do. It's a different mission. But they're very much part of God's world. They're very much connected to God's mission of his kingship in the world. Hey, Reb Master, how are you doing? Welcome from Myrtle Beach. Okay. ואשר לכן צריכים ליהודים להם בדרושי של שלום העיר. כי בשלומו יהי לכם שלום. To help bring peace into the world. אין זה בגלל שיהודים וחסידים חס ושלום ואדרבה. חסד לאומות חטאס. כאשר מקבלים מהם חסידים שמסייעים דידי בעיני תורה ומצוות. אין זה חסד לאומות. Literally that we see when a Jew, let me finish the paragraph before I start blabbing. That we see even when the nations of the world do kindness upon us, and it's known that when the Jewish people fulfill our purpose, when a Jew does what we need to do in this world, it's amazing how we see not only is there not a resistance or a pushback from the nations of the world. The nations of the world want to help us. They acknowledge. They see a Jew keeping Torah and mitzvahs, walking with a kippah, a beard, tzitzis, proud to be a Jew. They respect. They do. They say, wow, this is what a Jew is supposed to be. How can I help you? I want to help you. I want to help you fulfill your mission. Because ultimately the energy travels to them. And we see that when we get the assistance from the nations of the world, it's all coming from Hashem. Ches. Lo hesef she'enin hana b'Shabbos Bereshis mudgash b'yoser she'az b'gilui b'shana zu. And the Rebbe says, now we see, as we spoke about above, that Shabbos Bereshis, just to recap really quickly, which is the Shabbos that connects all the energy of Tishrei, that we are makablim, that we're drawing down from God, all this tremendous energy from the Jewish holidays of Tishrei, and it connects the beginning of us taking that energy and bringing it into the world and helping to fulfill the purpose of why the world was created. The Rebbe said this is connected specifically to the year Tafshin Nun Beis, when the Sikha was given, 1992. Again, this is the most recent teachings we have from the Rebbe so far. Asher Yehudim Metziim Zois Kuras Hayat Hashana Niflois Bo. That the Rebbe said the acronym of Tafshin Nun Beis is Hayat Shana, the year that Niflaos Bo, that I will show you wonders in everything. Niflos B'chal, in everything. We know that, by the way, we're in the year Tafshin Pei Aleph, which the Rebbe specifically referred to as Pa'alot Arnenu. And in Tafshin Nun Aleph, where he made a reference to this year, where it says, Nisi'im Arenu, I will show you wonders. And once again, this will be a year we will see wonders. So God willing, we're going to have a year of tremendous revealed blessings as a nation, as individuals, after a very challenging year, to say the least, over the last year. Nifla'os, Nun Pa'alot, which is talking about wonders. Mizbata Shlemos Begilui Bechinas Pela, which is a completion of wonders. The year Tafshin Nun Beis was a year of tremendous blessings and wonders that we saw. שאפילו פעם אחת פלא היה מוגדר ופרש מעניינים אחרים ולחץ כמה וכמה נון פעלות. והוסיף שנה כאשר אם גם יובא שניהם שנקרא עולם, literally referring to that year of wonders that God will show us. Again, we're talking about the year the Sikha was originally given, in Tafshin Nun Beis, 1992. Hashem taha shana niflois bo meremez asher neisef b'shana areno niflois. That the previous year, which was Tafshin Nun Aleph, which stands for Areno Niflois, I will show you wonders. The Rebbe said Tafshin Nun Beis is a year that he will show you even more, because it will be wonders in everything. I'm going to read through this quickly and then summarize outside, because it's referring, not that it's not relevant, but it's referring specifically to that year of Tafshin and Nun Beis when the Sikha was given. V'niflois boi, haniflois yehu hashana b'kol b'henini, yesh l'moshe gilui shal niflois bo, misbatim b'gilui shal b'chira HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. That literally that these wonders will be revealed as to how God really chose the Jewish people. In other words, that the nations of the world will start becoming aware that the Jewish people are not here to be their enemies, God forbid, and that anyone who is attacking the Jewish people is literally attacking God, that we are God's emissaries and we got put here to help bring godliness into the world, and along with the assistance of the nations of the world. בתחיל שנה זו, המשק נפלס בשנה שעברה, ויוחד הקשר לזה שמדינה ההיא, בשיר הרויס, ובסייס לאלפי יהודים לאוילוס לארץ ישראל, שבו ייחודם להילוס במילוס הפשטוס ביחר בפרטי, גילויס מרשל ישראל, באופן שגם אומות האדם האחרים בזה רסיון. It says in that year, actually, thousands and thousands of Jews emigrated from Russia. There's a time that the Jewish people, before that, were not allowed to leave. It was called the Iron Curtain. You were literally not allowed to leave Russia. And Russia literally opened their gates and not only encouraged, but helped the Jewish people leave Russia and emigrate into Eretz Israel. You know, it's just as a side story, because we're doing good. We're going to finish on time. Professor Bronover, who I had the zchus of spending some time with in New York, he lived in Manhattan, and Baruch Hashem, I've got to speak with him many times and meet with him personally many times, a few times, but tremendously holy person and an emissary of the Rebbe. The Rebbe at one point in time told Professor Bronover, who was originally from Russia, that he needs to start making arrangements in Eretz Yisrael to start preparing thousands of apartments for all the immigrants that are going to be coming in from Russia to Eretz Yisrael. And Professor Bronover is a chassid, and if a chassid his Rebbe tells him to do something, you don't ask questions. But he said afterwards he was completely alarmed, because at that time, the Iron Curtain was not allowing anyone out. It was unheard of. You couldn't get out of Russia. And the Rebbe was telling Professor Bonhoeffer, long before this happened, to start preparing Eretz Yisrael for all the thousands of immigrants that are going to come in. And it took place in this year. That's one of the wonders the Rebbe is talking about. They're going to come in from Russia. And after this happened, even I don't remember who it was who was the prime minister of Russia at the time. But he even said, because Professor Bonhoeffer publicized this, he said there's no possible way the Rebbe could have known that according to the channels of nature, because he didn't even consider or think about letting anyone out of Russia at the time. It wasn't even entering in his mind. You know what? Maybe in a few years we're going to let the Jewish people out. It was like not even in existence. And the Rebbe, as a prophet, said it's going to happen. And Professor Bonhoeffer literally went to Israel and started preparing Beersheba all over the place, thousands of places. And everyone thought he was a complete Moshiach. Next thing you know, the Iron Curtain dropped and thousands of Jews started immigrating to Israel from Russia. Okay, that's one of the wonders the Rebbe is talking about that took place in that year. And the Rebbe says this emphasis of the miracles that God is doing for the Jewish people, that is going to continue to be revealed and strengthening as we get closer to true and complete redemption, that more and more the nations of the world will acknowledge and realize that we're God's chosen people, that there's a reason why that we're still here and we're still thriving. I forgot who the famous philosopher, he said one time, this is going back hundreds of years ago, he said, you don't need any more proof that God exists other than the Jewish people. Because according to any logical or historical accounts, we shouldn't exist. Okay. Says the Rebbe again, more and more we see throughout history how the nations of the world are acknowledging and recognizing that the Jewish people are God's chosen people. Midrash Hazal is brought down many places by Hazal. We see this more, especially more recently in the recent generations. The Rebbe said we see this not only from Russia, which at one point in time didn't allow anyone out and allowed the Jewish people out and even assisted them to go to Eretz Yisrael, but we see it even more, we see in America, where the Rebbe calls Medina Shel Chesed a nation of kindness, that literally the Jewish people are free and to fulfill our service of God, our Torah, our mitzvahs, and in a menucha nefesh, a menucha guf, in a calm way, in our souls and bodies. No one disturbs us. It's like I was with my family over Sukkot. Baruch Hashem, we shook lulav. I think Shiloh counted. We don't count Jews, but 74 Shiloh said Jews over a couple days in Publix. When you're going into Publix and having sure by the elevators, we stood there with lulav and esrog, and we gave out hundreds of 7 Olam no hype cards to the non-Jews. And we stood there, with lulav and esrog, literally right there into the entrance of Publix and the air conditioning. And the manager walked by, he smiled, he said hello. Someone asked if we want a cart to put our stuff. No one was like, "What are you doing here? Why are you doing that?" Like they were happy when they were there. It's like they understood we were bringing brachas, blessings to their store. In America, you see that there's an encouragement, and the Jews are literally allowed to practice our religion openly and do Torah and mitzvahs openly with the assistance of our host country where we live. Of Ra. Spoke about that. I'm just going through this. Inside and we should see specifically through our leaders, our rebbes, and our teachers, and our heads throughout the years, how they continue to spread Judaism throughout to the 4 corners of the world and help literally prepare the world for redemption. The Ratzon may be Hashem's will. Should no taste of Bizah, Oid Yoser, Oid Yoser. Boyfriend, the Moisif, Vahelach Vor. That through God's will, we should continue even more and even more by spreading out more and more light into the world. That literally through the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Chabad, said we're day workers. What does he mean? We're not here to fight with darkness. We're here to spread light. As the world seems to get darker and as things seem to be more difficult, the key is to add light. You know, one of the Rebbe's biggest campaigns for Moshiach was very simple. Very, very simple. Add in deeds of goodness and kindness. Just do good. Be nice to people. Be kind. Help people. Don't look for reasons to, you know, the redemption is achdus. It's unity. I learned a mind over Sukkot where the Rebbe said that the whole point of Sukkot is simcha. Zman simcha seinu. Why is it time for rejoicing? Because we're together in a sukkah. The key to joy and happiness is unity. In ourselves, in other words, we have to be balanced in our powers, in our energies. In Tiferet, which is the central sphere, the center, meaning we have to balance our kindness and our strength, our will to succeed and to fight versus our surrender to God. We have to balance these energies inside of us. And on top of it, we have to bring unity in our people. We have to find the reasons why we're together. Not he's religious, he's not religious, he's Chabad, he's Breslov, he's Fry, he's religious, he's Sephardi, he's Ashkenazi. None of that matters. We have to find what unites us together as our people, as a Jewish people. And then we have to bring unity to mankind through all the nations of the world by educating them about the 7 laws of Noah. We gave out hundreds, I'm telling you, hundreds of cards. I sat there, the first time I went with my son and my daughter, and then my wife came the second time. Over 2 days, we sat there for hours in front of Publix. And I can't tell you how many Goyim blessed us. God bless you, thank you, God bless you, thank you. Not even talking about all the Jewish people that shook through love and Esrog. I'm talking about the Goyim that thanked us. Wow, you're taking your time out of your day to give me a blessing card? You care about me, you're thinking about me. God bless you, God bless. And the Rebbe says, he brings down in many Maimarim of Chassidus, during the holiday of Sukkot, the Goyim will bless the Jewish people, and we're supposed to say Amen. They acknowledge, they want us to do what we're doing. The last thing we should be doing is hiding our Jewishness. The worst thing we could be doing is trying to pretend we're not Jewish. On the contrary, the more we who we are, the more we can bring unity to the world. The world is in a state of literally shifting of consciousness. Are we going to unite as one people, the Jewish people and the nations of the world? Or are we going to sit there and throw rocks and stones at each other and say, you're voting for Biden, you're voting for Trump, you're a lefty, you're a righty, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat. What is that? That's exile. That's separation. That's the Yetzer Hara. That's the evil inclination that wants us to fight amongst each other. Instead, we need to bring unity. And it's only through the Torah. It's only through fulfilling God's will. And unity brings joy and brings redemption. Okay, Tess. We're winding down on time for an on-time landing. Makal hana muvan. B'pashtus ad kama misholedes b'tachtis hachriza visparsam achroina. And the Rebbe says, and according to what we said, and we explained in a simple way, has been announced. And spread out as times recently, even more. Shehudim be'eretz Yisrael tzrichim lahachna lelachutz shal omat ha'olam b'kasher le'eretz Yisrael b'kalal es hezgara ba'omos nimsa'a tachas ha'shlita shal omat ha'olam v'tuluyim b'chasideihem. That the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael, it's necessary to announce and to proclaim to the Goyim, to the nations of the world, that we find ourselves amongst the nations of the world. and that the nations of the world want to do kindness. They want to do goodness. They want to help us. The Rebbe says, but if we think for a moment that the Jewish people's rights or fulfillment or dwelling in the land of Israel is dependent on the Goyim or on what any world leader is saying, the Rebbe says, Rahmani litzlan hoya litzya. God forbid 1,000,000 times that we should think that our right to Eretz Yisrael is on any peace plans or any Shem Yishmor, whatever nation they be, and whatever president. I don't care if that's the leader of America or of any Arab countries or any EU. Oh, what are the Jewish people building here in Shomron? The land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people. We must stay strong in this, the Rebbe is saying. There's two things that makes the Rebbe cry, that you literally see the Rebbe cry. Moshiach and Shleimus Haaretz, the completion of the land of Israel. The Rebbe demands that we must openly and clearly say the land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people because God gave it to us. It is our God-given birthright. God created this world, and that's what this entire parsha is literally about. That God created the world, God chose to give the land of Israel to the Jewish people, and the land of Israel belongs to us. It's an undivided bond between Jewish people, God, and the Torah and the land of Israel. And God forbid, if anyone tries to cause any separation, that is what brings about massive destruction in the world. Massive destruction. There's a book called Eye to Eye. It's written by a goy. I don't have the author in front of me. I've given it to many people. You can look it up on Amazon. And he writes conclusively. It's a fascinating book. That what are the worst natural disasters? Tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, the costliest insurance claims due to disasters in the world, the biggest stock market crashes, the worst terror attacks, the worst destructions that have ever come to this world have all happened within 24 hours of the presidents of America trying to broker peace deals for Israel to give away land for peace. I'm not making this up. Every single time there's even a peep about anyone saying that we should surrender any land, one drop of land of Israel, to the Goyish nations in exchange for a handshake for peace, world destruction. You think what's happening in America is not a direct result of what's going on in Israel? I don't want to get into politics right now. But President Trump, who I know wants to do the right thing, I personally wrote a letter to him. I don't know. I got a letter back from the White House. I don't know if it did anything. I sent him a copy of this book. He's being ill-advised. This peace deal that they're brokering, that they're trying to carve out, God forbid, Shem Yishmor, a Palestinian capital within Jerusalem. The second they started talking about this peace deal, America has been on fire, not only from protests, but the entire West Coast is burning. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of acres are burning to the ground. It's costing hundreds and billions of dollars in destruction of property. It is directly connected to discussing giving away the land of Israel. 100% guaranteed. We cannot ever concede one drop of land. It brings destruction to this world. The call the Reish, Rahmani Litzlan. Oh no, Reish Lamar, excuse me. Lomar Sheki Oyim the Yehudi who Behefsech Rahmani Litzlan Hoyo Lesia. Im Yisrael Hu Nitzchi Hayoyim Mehem Im Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nitzchi. That the Jewish people are an eternal nation, and God is an eternal God, and the land of Israel is an eternal resting and dwelling place for the Jewish people. Base. Yehudi Ru'ah B'Pashtus. B'Tichira B'Ticha Shal HaTorah Kula Chab. That is literally written in the Torah. Bereshis. Rashi Mafrash Al Zeh. B'Shvil HaTorah Shnikar Reshis. B'Shvil Yisrael Shnikar Reshis. That the world was created for the Jewish people and for the Torah. Muvan. Eifo B'Pashtus Mamash. Shelo Umat Olam Hem Ha'Habar Rachmani Latlan. that the nations of the world are not the Baal Bayit. They are not the rulers over the Jewish people. Rahmani litzlan. No, again, I can't emphasize this enough because the Rebbe can't emphasize this enough. And I'm not telling you my opinion. I'm telling you what the Rebbe has said in numerous places. That not only does giving away, God forbid, or even talking away, giving away any drop of the land of Israel endanger Israel, it endangers the entire world. The safety and well-being of every single person in this world is completely dependent upon the land of Israel remaining in the hands of the Jewish people. And what's more proof, if you need more proof than that, the very people that are trying to claim that it is not our land and try to take it, what are they doing? They are using terrorist acts, blowing themselves up, setting on fire. Their goal is not land. It is the destruction of the Jewish people and the destruction of the world as it is known. Again, the final war is a war against God. Make no mistake about it. And literally, this is why the entire Torah begins with this, and Rashi brings this down. That this is the land that God gave to the Jewish people. It is not negotiable by anybody. And move on. This is the entire foundation of the entire Torah. That the world was created for the sake of the Jewish people to be God's ambassadors. On the land of Israel is our eternal birthright. Can't emphasize this enough. And the Mira is but for me, Kama Israel, Asher Ba Lishma, Torah Shekar Yisrael to live, but the Rebbe is using exclamation points. God forbid, again, that a Jew thinks for 1 second that we need the permission of any nation, of any country, of any ruler to build in our land, to do what we want in our land. Does the government of America call up the Arab countries and say, by the way, we want to add some new apartments in Washington, D.C. Is it okay with you guys? What the hell is that? It's unfortunately that it's a very weak government of Jews who are embarrassed to be Jews. And because of it, they are misleading America, think that somehow, and I love America very much, but I love Israel and I love God more, that we need the permission of anyone to do what we want in our land. In 1 second, the Rebbe said, 1 second, if the government, if the so-called leaders of Israel stood up and said, this is our land, we're not giving a drop to anyone. Here, it's written in the Torah. Go pound salt. Moshiach would come. Instead, we say, well, I mean, do you realize, I don't want to, again, it's beyond the scope of what we're talking about. But like, we conquered Hebron. We conquered, and we were embarrassed. We said, we're sorry. We're sorry for taking our land back. Here are the keys. You guys take it back. We're sorry. It's an embarrassment. Hapila davar hazacha yoser b'voa ata mechaymen tayvim shah chodesh tishrei kasher Yehudim amru kama pa'amim b'tfiloi savshal ata v'charto mikol amim. The Rebbe said, we're just coming out of the month of Tishrei, where we said continuously, every single day, ata v'charto mikol amim. You chose us from amongst the nations. If you chose us, if we're the chosen people, why do we possibly think we need permission from anyone to do what we want with our land? And why do we think, God forbid, that we should give up concessions? I mean, it's mind-boggling. If you look throughout the history of the Jewish people, every time we, Rahmani al-San, gave lands to the Arabs, they took it and they bombed us. The terror didn't stop, it increased. They said, you know how many times we offered, we said, here, take this, no, we want the whole thing. I mean, it's written in their charter of Hamas. They don't want land, they want destruction of the Jewish people. We're going to empower them by giving them a place that they can launch missiles closer? It's insanity, complete insanity. ועוד כריכך הדבר בפשטות שאף אחד לא חלם שיהיה צריך להעבירם הפרטי ליהוד. ואפילו אומות העולם מכירים בכך שבני ישראל העם הבחר. This is even the nations of the world acknowledge and accept that we are the chosen people. We need to believe it. We need to be the ones to stand up and say it. And they'll happen in 2 seconds. And as we continue in time, we see this even more. לטענה של הגרה והאימוס, חסידים שמקבלים באומות העולם, אין לו כל שייכות לזה. Literally, that there's no shaykhus, there's no connection to the fact that the nation's kindness, or God forbid the opposite, has anything to do with the fact that they are Baal Bayit over us. They are not ruling over us. Only God rules over the Jewish people. Okay. V'oy ve'ikar, ha'imuvah b'pashtus, ka'asher duvar es be'inin kiyum ha'torah v'mitzvahs. How much more so the Rebbe says in the fulfillment of Torah and mitzvahs. Lo shaykh al zeh tzivar shah ha'izkara. Lachas hakama during Radon, b'don v'ridon, ka'asher al medubar, o al pikuach nafshois, v'kvois chaziras sitachim, v'posek hadin b'shulchan aruch, Orachaim Sever Machach. The Chaim Sever Al Iros Yisrael. Im Ba'al Chel Oiskim Nafshois. Fuadin Logara says in the Shulchan Aruch that literally, if whoa, I don't know what just happened. I got zapped out 1 second. It's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, that even if there's talks about them taking one piece of straw from the land of Israel, it's pekuach nefesh. We must violate Shabbat, and we must go out and fight to defend the land of Israel. Okay, Yud, Behir Atzayin, maybe Hashem's well. This is it. We're coming to a close right on time. Shira Chazora b'derabah afilo davar malcham Mashiach Amar shegias min Yavin. ואוי ועיקר, אשר בכלל לא צריך לדבר בשלולה עניינים אחרים, מכאן להבא ידברו רק בשבחס ועלסר של כל אחד מישראל, מיוחד על ידי שהם מסוימים בלימוד התורה וקיום המצוות. כל מיוחד, והשירויס התלמוד תורה, ראשי תיבס, חומש תחל ותנאים. The Rebbe is saying that the most important thing is to add in light. That's the greatest thing we could do. To add in light, to add into our mitzvahs. The Rebbe said all of us should be learning chitas, meaning that the daily portion of the chumash, the Tehillim and the Tanya. The Od Ba'ikr, not just the Lubavitchers, everyone should be doing this. Keep adding light, keep adding light. That's what we got to do. We got to be strong over our identity as Jews. We're going to be strong over our rights and ownership to the land of Israel, and we have to live it by adding in Torah and mitzvahs. And furthermore, we must announce to the nations of the world that the Jewish people are the beginning and chosen people. And Eretz Yisrael is shaychus to the Am Yisrael. It's the land that belongs to the Jewish people. And furthermore, it's necessary that it must remain complete and must remain in the hands of the Jewish people. And this will be fulfilled for sure in the true and complete redemption, when God will add on to the 7 lands that we've already conquered, the 3 additional lands of Kini, Kenizi, and Kadmoni. Kabbalah and Chassidus explains, meaning the Mochin, the Chokmah, Bina, and the Das, will be added on to the emotions. The Techem Yad Mamish, it should happen immediately. B'Shabbos Bereshis, in this year, that God will show us wonders, and the wonders will be revealed from Hashem. And furthermore, that these wonders, it says, when I would take you out of the land of Egypt, I will once again show you wonders. This is referring to the true and complete redemption through our righteous Redeemer. And we're entering after this into Parshas Noach, and after that into Parshas Lech Lecha. where it says we will go out from our land and our birthplace and our father's house to the land I will show you. And this is referring to the Jewish people, including as we find ourselves amongst the nations of the world. That we will all go to the Holy Land, to the land of Israel, to Yerushalayim Yer Kodesh, to the holy city of Jerusalem, the Har HaKodesh, to the holy mountain, the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, to the third temple, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Kodesh HaKodeshim, of Techem Me'ad Mamish, and all of this should happen immediately. May we all be blessed to take the power of the whole month of Tishrei and bring it into the world, bring this energy into our private lives, into the nations of the world, and proclaim without fear, without worry, without embarrassment, that God chose us to be his chosen people. And the land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people. And when the Jewish people are complete, and the land of Israel is complete, the entire world is complete. And when we merit that completion with the complete and final redemption right now. Moshiach now. God bless. Thank you for joining. See everyone, God willing, in the Beis Hamikdash before I close this. And if not, Chas v'Shalom, next Tuesday night, at the same time, 8:30. All the best. God bless.